Hello and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily Lu, and these are the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Financial support. China's central bank injected liquidity through overnight reverse repos for the first time in mid-August. Grim milestone. Economists are alarmed as the U.S. slides into an ever deeper debt hole, with national debt surpassing $40 trillion. Robot Bonanza. The 2026 World Robot Conference is underway in Beijing, and today we feature its Procurement Day. And as usual, a quick check on Chinese mainland stock markets when we kick off the show. Key indices finished the day higher. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index added about 0.25%, finishing at 3,903 points. Well, we see bigger gains here in Shenzhen with mid-caps, and also the China's index with tech-focused board is up by about 0.6%, or about 22 points up. We're going to take a look now at how regional shares are performing today and how Wall Street closed out overnight. Top story of the day. China's central bank injected liquidity through overnight reverse repos for the first time in mid-August, highlighting a policy shift toward more precise and targeted macro adjustment. On August 14th, the People's Bank of China conducted 349 billion yuan or $52 billion in overnight reverse repurchase agreements, precisely targeting liquidity needs on the tax payment date. It was the first such operation in the middle of a month since the instrument was added to the central bank's toolbox in late June. An overnight reverse repo is a transaction in which the central bank buys securities from commercial banks via bidding and agrees to sell them back the following day. The new tool was introduced to help smooth temporary fluctuations in liquidity, improve monetary policy efficiency, and reduce financing costs for institutions. And now for more analysis on China's monetary policy, let's bring in Mr. Liu Zhiqing, Senior Fellow at Renmin University of Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies. Mr. Liu, thank you for joining us on the program. So the PBOC's Q2 monetary policy report mentioned introducing more pragmatic and effective incremental policies. Is the recent more frequent use of overnight reverse repos an early example of this pragmatic policy thinking?
Yes, I think it's true. This is one good example for the PBOC to take such action to ensure that the policy implementation for incremental policies to support the financial sections. As we know, these policies mainly support the commercial banks for when they are overnight interest rate more stable. As we know, this time is for all the banks are facing the tax pay day, and also to pay more the RRR rate to the central bank. That means that all the commercial banks would have a short-term shortage of the capital liquidation. So that's why the PBOC has taken such action in order to ensure the liquidity and also the stable capital market as a whole. So this is a very important action. And also this policy will ensure the stabilizing of the capital market, especially for commercial banks. They can, all these positions they have can really be insured and have the capability to deal all this financial pressure, maybe from the financial difficulties they are facing. So this is a very, I say that a very realistic, very influential policy that taken by the PBOC.
Okay, so if the central bank leans more heavily on fine-tuned and targeted liquidity operations, what kind of implications does it have for market participants?
I think for market participants, they have three factors mainly. First is the more stabilizing of the market, the monetary supply, because as we know, at the moment, all the banks, they are facing some problems for the credit abilities to ensure this great project implementation. And secondly, is also for the commercial banks, they have to buy or to have to purchase the national bonds in order to keep the main projects ongoing and well developed. And third is, of course, is very important to make the more savers of this deposit by the residents, by the people, to put it into the bank. In order to make all the position, all this, the capital market more stabilized, I think the participants can be, relaxing, can have more opportunities and reliabilities to provide adequate monetary supply.
Mr. Liu, traditionally we have this 7-day reverse repo, and also today we're looking at this overnight reverse repos. How would you compare those two instruments and their role in terms of smoothing money market volatility?
As we know, these two instruments have different functions. The overnight reverse purchase is only for a short-term monetary policies. It's not to replace the 7-day reverse purchase, because this 7-day reverse purchase is still the main financial tool by PBOC in order to ensure the stabilizing of the financial market expansion and monetary supply. So the overnight is only one supplementary or additionally for, not for emergency, but for the necessity of the market. So that's why some commercial banks, they are under pressure of the monetary supply or the capital market. So that's why the overnight the reverse purchase can be done in due time, in really very good effectiveness to support the financial sections of the commercial bank. That's why we see that 7 days is different, but the overnight is more effective, more frequent, could be used to support the commercial banks for their financial supply.
All right, thank you so much for your insights. That's Mr. Liu Zhiqing, Senior Fellow, Renmin University's Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies for us. China is steadily pivoting toward higher quality and smarter consumption, the Ministry of Commerce said on Wednesday as it outlined the latest consumer trends shaping the economy. China's services consumption grew by 5% year-on-year from January to July, outpacing retail sales of consumer goods, which rose just 1.2%. Spending on travel, sports, and culture jumped 10% year-on-year. In the meantime, green and smart products gained strong traction. New energy vehicle sales hit a record 65% of total car sales in July, while high-tech items like sports cameras, robots, vacuums posted double-digit growth, and sales of humanoid robots nearly doubled year-on-year. Chinese authorities say that the country's transport sector is an important testing ground for AI implementation, as well as a primary platform for the technology's large-scale applications. The Ministry of Transport made the announcements at a news conference on Wednesday in Beijing. Our reporter Yu Yang has more.
Chinese authorities say artificial intelligence has been widely used in the country's transport industry. In southeastern China's Fujian province, AI and large models are being introduced into the risk analysis and approval work for the transportation of some of the super large goods, such as transformers. The working time has been cut from 7 business days to around 24 hours.
In recent years, we have accelerated the deep integration of AI in transportation, focusing on 4 major directions: infrastructure, transportation vehicles and equipment, transportation services, and industry governance. The technologies have been implemented in 860 scenarios covering the entire fields of railway, public transportation, water, aviation, and postal services.
The efforts are part of the scheme of China's AI plus Transportation Action Plan for Innovation in Typical Application Scenarios. The document focuses on 10 key areas, such as intelligent driving, smart highways, and intelligent shipping. The purpose is to speed up the large-scale commercial deployment of new technologies, new equipment, and new business forms in the intelligent transport sector.
There are 3 core objectives of this action plan. First, to ensure the implementation of the macro policies. Second, to break down the barriers between technology and industry supply and demand. Last but not the least, to use AI to fix the weak links of the industry.
Meanwhile, China's railway industry is serving as a major application platform for AI technology.
We are strengthening the construction of key laboratories and engineering research centers related to artificial intelligence technologies such as intelligent operation and maintenance of high-speed trains and intelligent control of train autonomous operation, promoting the construction of pilot bases for AI implementation in the railway industry.
Chinese authorities say by 2030, a number of large models will be implemented in the country's transportation industry, and they believe artificial intelligence will help to improve the efficiency as well as the development of operations in this industry. Yu Yang, CGTN, Beijing.
And still to come here on Global Business. Grim milestone. Economists are alarmed as the U.S. slides into a never deeper debt hole, national debt surpassing $40 trillion.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Shifting gears, the U.S. Treasury Department says the national debt has surpassed $40 trillion. The grim milestone comes months ahead of projections by the Congressional Budget Office and has alarmed many economists. Walter Morris reports.
$40 trillion breaks down to about $117,000 for every single person in the U.S. And according to the Peterson Foundation, the United States spends about $2.8 billion a day on net interest payments, making it the fastest growing part of the federal budget. That means American taxpayers are spending over $1 trillion a year in interest on the national debt. That's more than the U.S. spent on national defense last year and more than the government spent on public elementary and secondary education in 2024. So why is that important? Experts say the rising interest can reduce the money available for public investment projects. Rising debt can slow economic growth by stalling business investment and freezing wages. It also increases the likelihood of a large financial crisis. According to the Peterson Foundation, there are 3 main drivers for the national debt increase: changing demographics, rising healthcare costs, and inadequate federal revenues. The U.S. government does not collect enough tax money to cover spending, and with Americans expected to live longer on average, the aging baby boomer generation will place a financial strain on government spending programs like Social Security and Medicare. Based on the data, the U.S. national debt will nearly double in the next 10 years. Walter Morris, CGTN, Washington.
U.S. President Donald Trump has passed a proposed 50% tariffs on a range of goods from Canada. The levies were scheduled to take effect on Wednesday. Talks toward a new deal will continue during the 3-day suspension. Dan Williams reports.
The newly built $4.5 billion Gordie Howe International Bridge is the latest connection between Windsor in Ontario, Canada, and Detroit in the United States. But trade tensions between the two countries are testing ties. Many businesses across Canada are breathing a sigh of relief after avoiding a new bruising set of tariffs, at least temporarily. It follows the announcement by US President Donald Trump that he has paused 50% tariffs on around $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. The suspension is for 3 days, based on continued negotiations toward a new deal between the two countries.
Subject to the finalization of documents, we have a deal with Canada. and I think it's a very good deal for both parties. It's great for our farmers.
The news of a tariff pause was widely welcomed by locals in Windsor.
We're in a situation of having to make the best of a bad circumstance, is really where we're at. Sounds like a little bit of concession on both sides. Hopefully, it's a matter of not panicking, because at the last minute, things tend to change.
We should be able to stand on our own feet, even if we have to tight the bell a little. It's worth it. We cannot depend on other people.
Windsor is among the regions already impacted by a host of tariffs imposed last year that remain in place. Those tariffs are focused on steel, aluminum, auto and lumber, among others. The latest round of tariffs would have targeted a range of Canadian goods, from cement and building supplies to dairy and even hockey sticks. Canadian wine is another industry that would be hit, though many local producers say the impact would likely be small. They cite minimal US sales of their products, along with a surge in domestic sales following provincial bans on US alcohol sales, enacted as part of Canada's retaliatory tariffs.
Tariffs is a tax. That's what it is. And the tax is paid ultimately by the consumer.
Steve Ondeco is president of On Freight Logistics, a Windsor-based trucking and logistics company.
Certain industries are certainly hit very hard with the tariffs and the cost of the tariffs, and trying to offset those somehow and keep the business working in Canada has been a struggle for some industries.
Despite recent trade tensions, the US and Canadian economies remain deeply intertwined. The two exchanged some $720 billion worth of goods last year, but that figure is down 5.5% compared to 2024.
I think the world is on pause, and the business world is on pause, and the investments in new business is on pause until this is resolved. Business will not invest money in a short period of time, for a short period of time. Businesses needs long-term visions.
The announcement of a tariff pause has brought relief, at least temporarily. But in the long term, the hope for many here is for a more comprehensive deal that brings greater certainty. Dan Williams, CGTN, Windsor, Canada.
Opening statements commenced in federal court on Tuesday in a case against social media giant Meta of allegations that its product has led to teen addiction and harm. Mark New has more.
At a federal courthouse in Oakland, California, 29 U.S. states have joined together in a civil lawsuit arguing that Meta designed features such as infinite scroll and push notifications to get teens addicted to their product. U.S. state attorneys general said the Facebook and Instagram apps improperly collected data from children under 13 and are seeking damages of up to $200 billion. But Meta says penalties could lead to $1.4 trillion and argued that they've already proactively implemented teen protections and disabled more than 1 million accounts for users under 13. This case comes on the heels of Meta losing similar court cases in both Los Angeles and New Mexico in March. In February of 2025, Shannon Heacock rushed to her laundry room to find her son, 16-year-old Elijah, dying.
I went into panic mode, digging blood out of my son's mouth, begging him to breathe. I watched him lose his battle. I left the room so his twin and his baby brother would never have to see what I saw. But sadly, they did.
Heacock says her son was the victim of sextortion from an adult predator who learned everything about him through his social media profiles.
Our kids are at a war that we're not invited to.
I hold Emmy in my heart every single second of every single day. I fight for her. I fight for my daughter Kaylee, who is now raising my grandson Kai, without the aunt that he deserved. And I fight for every family that has been shattered by Meta, those who choose profits over people.
The group of mothers and demonstrators unfurl a banner with the names of 369 teen victims. But they point out that since Meta's court losses in March, 39 more names have been added to the list.
We need to bring it back to what it was intended for people to socially connect digitally. Because kids they're using these products as a crutch, really, to get through life. They don't they don't even know how to connect. They don't know how to look somebody in the eye when they're speaking to them. They don't know how to, it is really impeding them and their growth going forward.
Student activist Dawson Kelly says he's a guinea pig and is here to fight for the next generation to be excluded from that same experiment.
The company inside that courthouse reduced my childhood into watch time and sold it to advertisers. One in which people who understood my brain better than I did, knowingly and deliberately pulled me out of the real world and stunted my growth.
The trial is expected to last 6 to 8 weeks, and during that time, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify. Mark New, CGTN, Oakland, California.
And earlier we spoke to Matthew Bergman, founding attorney of the Social Media Victims Law Center, and he shared with us his analysis on this matter.
Unfortunately, courts had interpreted it very broadly to confer broad indemnity and immunity to anything that a social media company did that involved third-party content, which was just about everything they did. We adopted a new theory focusing not on the content, but the design of the platform, in particular the addictive nature of the design. And those theories have been able to get past motions to dismiss on Section 230 and proceeded to trial. What we're seeing now is the utilization of addictive technologies to maximize the amount of profits that these companies make by selling ads. When you're on social media, you are not the customer, you're the product. And unfortunately, the engagement is maintained in many cases by sending kids down terrible rabbit holes where they're confronted with suicidal content or anorexic content or other forms of self-harm or hatred.
The financial implications for this are huge. And if you compare it to the tobacco industry lost tons of money, yet it is still wildly profitable. Do you see the same avenue for Meta and others? Do you see a big financial hit coming?
Well, what we hope is that they will have to bear the financial costs of their decisions to design dangerous and addictive products. Look, no one's going to say that social media should go away. Even if you wanted it to, it's not going to. But you could make social media, 80% safer by simply implementing the safety recommendations that Meta's own internal trust and safety people have been recommending for years. They'd still make plenty of money. They might make a little bit less, but we'd have a lot more healthy kids out there.
Time to get a check on some other business headlines we're tracking at the hour. OpenAI CFO Sarah Friar has reportedly told employees that the AI firm will be a public company in 2027 or even earlier. The leading AI lab has confidentially filed its IPO prospectus with the Securities and Exchange Commission of the U.S. Shares in Marvel Technology have surged almost 10% on news that the chipmaker has reached a deal with Google. The deal, revealed by a securities filing, allows Google to buy nearly 60 million shares at $207 per share. Amazon has announced it plans to expand its drone delivery services to hundreds of American cities and towns by the end of the year. The e-commerce giant currently runs its drone services in 11 locations. After the expansion, it will cover about 500 locations across the nation. And now the European Union is intensifying efforts to become a global leader in artificial intelligence. With billions in planned investment, the EU is trying to catch up with the US and China. William Denslow reports.
Swarm robotics in action. Independent machines working together to achieve a common goal. The European Union has a similar objective. How 27 member states can best use their resources to become the first artificial intelligence continent.
We should ask ourselves the question of is it really important to be centralized or to be driven by strong innovators, or rather to have a fragmented ecosystem that allows for more creativity, but also that if one idea works somewhere we can replicate it, then it validates that idea.
Whatever the answer, the EU aims to provide the tools for Europe to unlock its potential. The blocs launched a call for tenders to generate more than $30 billion in investment to set up 7 AI gigafactories.
Europe wants to become the first AI continent, and because we will give our startups, SMEs, industry, researchers and public authorities the necessary infrastructure to build the most advanced AI models.
For the EU, this strategy is about being more competitive on the global stage. Roughly 80% of Europe's digital services and infrastructure currently comes from outside the bloc. The EU wants to change that and develop advanced AI on the continent that's in line with its own values. In 2024, former European Central Bank chief Mario Draghi released a report detailing how the EU can harness its economic potential to better compete in areas like tech on the world stage. But some researchers warn that 2 years on, only 30% of the recommendations have been implemented.
It's like a slow growth that's been occurring, but that has led to so many gaps and so many regulations that it's really hard to say that the report has, converted some actual momentum.
Europe is lagging in the AI race, and some analysts say it could benefit from focusing on other areas in the tech space.
If you take quantum, Europe has you could say not a first mover advantage, but a good chance to come ahead, because Europe has a lot of leading startups which are doing great. Europe also has a good comparative advantage and specialization capacity in quantums.
The EU recently launched its tech sovereignty package, a series of measures to strengthen its cloud computing, AI and semiconductor industries. In an increasingly fierce battle for dominance, Europe hopes these policy decisions will prove to be a quantum leap. William Denslow, CGTN, Brussels.
And still to come here on Global Business. Robot Bonanza. The 2026 World Robot Conference gets underway in Beijing, and today we zoom in on its procurement day.
A vast land of 1.4 billion people. The world's second largest economy. Home to stories of the unexpected, the unimaginable, the breathtaking. Stories that touch the soul. Feel the speed, the passion. Enjoy spectacular natural and cultural landscapes. Feel the thrill of cutting-edge innovations. Discovering China. Global Biz. China Travel. We present to China never seen before. 24/7 at your fingertips.
The 2026 World Robot Conference is underway in Beijing, and this year's edition features the first procurement day, allowing buyers to meet with exhibitors to purchase application-specific products. The event runs until Sunday and has drawn 300 exhibitors and many buyers from around the world.
It's very impressive, very impressive. No, we're very interested in the robots. We can send them to the industrial environment to work. Some robot that can do the quality inspection for the plants.
Robots, all kinds, bipedals, but maybe wheel platforms with grippers or dexterous hands. And we train them to perform a series of tasks, pick and place, packaging, moving around boxes. And so it's fantastic to see the variation, diversity of robots that's available here in China from various players. You're really ahead worldwide.
Robots are collaborating with humans, and one area where we should do global collaboration is standardization, so that whatever is developed can fit to the other system.
China's humanoid robotics industry is looking for ways to take robots beyond the showroom and closer to real-world use. And at this year's World Robot Conference in Beijing, companies are showcasing advances in AI, motion control, and robot training while exploring new applications for these machines. Sun Tianyuan takes a closer look.
Robots, crowds, and more robots. They're everywhere at this year's World Robot Conference.
Before I came here, my mother gave me a rather personal mission.
She asked me to find her a robot that could actually take care of her when she gets old.
That may take a little longer, but robots are getting closer to a place in our everyday lives. Take this one. Ping pong is more than just a game.
Playing ping pong is a stress test for advanced humanoid robotics. It requires high-speed coordination between the brain, the vision system, and the limbs.
The idea is to train AI models with real-world data and eventually apply those capabilities across different robots and tasks.
We believe these technologies can support different sectors, including healthcare and elderly care. We're already working with Peking University healthcare partners on tasks such as moving beds, sorting medication, and cleaning operating rooms.
Another approach is to put robots to work first, then improve them through experience. This one is making traditional mooncakes, but it's not working alone. A human operator, more than 1,000 kilometers away, is guiding the robots.
The reason why we are using the teleoperations but not really the model that's pretty strong is because model right now can't really do the works like this.
For now, humans are still part of the process, but the idea is to let robots learn, one task at a time.
Because we want the robot to work in the real scenario, doing the real work, and getting some more real data, so he can gradually learn the skills and then become the fully automatically robot.
Different approaches, but a similar goal: getting robots out of the lab and into the real world. And excitement is spreading.
I've been to conferences in the US about humanoids, in Europe as well, and this is by far, I think, the most impressive showcase of humanoid in the world.
You see dexterous hands that are much more able, with more degrees of freedom, and then on the AI side, the models are getting more and more capable.
And for some visitors, it's more than just a showcase.
We know many of the companies, we visited many of the companies, and we have deep conversations with them because we want to buy the technology.
So, did I find the perfect robot for my mother? Not yet. But I did see a booming industry, one where robots are moving quickly from the showroom into the real world, and perhaps one day into our everyday lives. Sun Tianyuan, CGTN, Beijing.
Now let's get some discussions on the robotics industry. For that, we're joined by Mr. Wang Kun, Assistant Professor at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Mr. Wang, thank you for joining us on the program. So this year's World Robot Conference, we are seeing a clear shift for robots from simply demo-style stunts toward a real-world deployment. Which segment do you think will be benefiting from this first?
Thank you for having me, Lily. So we can clearly see this year robots are no longer just doing fancy tricks on the exhibition stages. Actually, they are doing more and more real-world jobs. So I believe the industrial sectors will benefit first. In the automotive and electronics factories, humanoid robots already handle a lot of things like the loading on the assembly lines and pick and pack in the large warehouses. Inspect the components for defects and carry material box between stations. So I think these tasks are very repetitive and well-defined. So the business sectors can see the economic return very fast. So the factory flows, I think, are far more easy for the humanoid robots to apply first. But meanwhile, I have also want to mention, actually, we have seen many life services increasingly being done by the humanoid robots. We have seen the robots, they do the delivering in the hotels. They are also guiding the shoppers in the retail stores and also assisting with the elderly people in the hospitals, do patrols in the airport and the train stations. So I think these structured service settings are the next natural step. To summarize, I think the adoption accelerates first in the industrial and the logistics sectors, but with the hospitality, retail, and care services following close behind.
Okay, so what do you think are the biggest bottlenecks that are holding back large-scale commercialization of humanoid robots in China, let's say, over the next 2 to 3 years?
I think the large-scale commercialization over the next 2 or 3 years still face some challenges, as you say, the bottlenecks. I think the first is the still very high hardware cost. A high-performance humanoid robot needs very precise joint actuators, and also sensitive tactile sensors and dedicated computing chips. So these are very expensive right now. So making the price is still not very affordable by the ordinary families or small business. I think the first is the price. Second, I think is the environmental adaptability. Current robots, they can work well in the very stable environment. But if you put them in a very complex scenarios, for example, like they have to climb stairs and work on some uneven roads, and also changing the light conditions in real life, they face some challenges. I think the third is the limited general intelligence. In the reporting, we have mentioned the scientists are using the AI, trying to let the robots to learn as much as possible like humans, but still right now we have seen the robots can only most likely finish some preset actions instead of handling some unexpected situations. So I think until these pain points are solved, the mass commercial use is still being restricted at this stage.
And Mr. Wang, earlier in the show, we talked about China's Ministry of Transport announcing that China's transport sector is a major testing ground for AI implementation. So in typical pilot scenarios that integrate AI and transportation, which use case scenarios do you think expect to reach large-scale commercial deployment ahead of others?
Yeah, that's right. When we talk about AI and the transportation integration, I think two scenarios may first achieve some large-scale commercial deployment ahead of others. First is the urban intelligent traffic management. Many Chinese cities, they already now use AI to adjust the traffic lights in real time. It reduces the rush hour congestion. They also detect the sudden road accidents instantly by using the AI model to detect the sensors and the camera images, and also guide the vehicle flow intelligently. And the second I have to mention is the autonomous driving. But now the autonomous driving is only in some closed scenarios. For example, autonomous driving trucks at some container ports, some driverless baggage shuttles at the airports, and also some unmanned delivery vehicles on some fixed logistic routes. But we have also seen many autonomous driving vehicles in different cities on the open roads. But these scenarios, they have to have very controllable risk and a mature business model later on. So compared with some large-scale autonomous driving, I think gradually from some closed scenarios in the port, airport, we will see more and more AI application and autonomous driving in China later on.
Well, thank you so much. That's Mr. Wang Kun, Assistant Professor at Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Chinese robotics firms are eyeing European market expansion with their humanoid robots. Industry experts say that trust in the technology is growing and the potential for robotics to reshape retail and manufacturing across Europe is increasingly clear. Michael Marlier reports from London.
These robots know how to party but pretty soon, they'll all have to get a job. Chinese firm Agibot builds these machines, which are driven by artificial intelligence.
It's like a person, when he grows in this country, when he grows in this factory, and he will be very familiar and adapted in this localized environment.
If European governments give the go-ahead, humanoid robots could eventually work in the home, helping with household tasks and even looking after children.
The humanoid robot develops so fast and it can learn many things as we train them. So I think I'm very confident about the future. Yeah.
But most robots are made in China or the United States. And the fact is, many consumers are nervous about foreign tech firms. Just this year, Politico Europe conducted a poll across 6 countries in Western and Central Europe. It asked how people felt about tech companies from the US and China. 80% said they worry about privacy and the way companies handle their personal data.
People love public spaces like this because they want to form connections. And trust is the basis of any connection.
So the challenge for robotics firms is simple but also complicated. They have to get people to trust them. Robot makers could highlight the data privacy laws in the European Union. They apply to all companies that handle Europeans' data, even if those companies are based outside Europe. But tech analyst Arthur Goldstuck says foreign firms don't need a massive public relations campaign. He thinks people will learn to trust robots as they use them more and more. It's a trend we've already seen with mobile phone brands, which build millions of handsets outside their own countries.
Most of those devices are actually manufactured in China, and people accept that a Chinese factory is producing a Samsung or an Apple phone, so already they are being almost required to trust the technology that's coming from the East. And a similar situation will emerge with regard to robots.
And if you think about it, the relationship between humans and robots is a bit like a dance. It only really works if we're moving to the same beat. Michael Marilia, CGTN, London.
And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more to come on CGTN.